Hello, everybody. I hope you're doing well. I will be excited to take your questions. The first thing um, that I wanted to uh, kind of talk to you about and bring to your attention, if you haven't already seen it, but I'm starting a group collective, a membership group um, for uh, starting in June. Um, so it's a monthly group membership where I do coaching, group coaching twice a month. And then once a month we have an interview, Q&A an industry veteran. It's been around a while, and you know, probably many whose names you'd recognize and many whose you wouldn't, but who have really great careers. And so I'm kind of excited about that. And um, Sonia, all good. Um, and I'm kind of, I've been thinking about this for a long time. Just because I've been a coach for a while, and I'm really mindful of just how costly coaching is. It's a really costly venture, and we all talk about the importance of it, right? And it is important, and it can just be completely out of reach, particularly when, my consensus these days from the people that I talk to is that, work is hard to come by these days. And I have that experience too. Um, it's been a very challenging time. And there's definitely it's been coming on along for a very long time, but there's definitely a reorientation to what this business is about, and our expectations of what it is, what it can be, all those things. um, and so I just have thought about it, and I really like to coach, and so I just thought that I would offer something on a consistent basis for a membership group, offering two 90-minute coaching sessions per month, group coaching sessions, and then the monthly Q&A for $60 a month. So I think it's uh, I think it's an affordable option, even, and I'm still mindful that um, that any expense is an expense. So anyway, I announced it. I put things up um, on social media, and I just sent out an announcement of it about a half an hour ago to my mailing list. So anyway, I am happy to answer questions about that if you have any. Happy to do that. And otherwise, I am here for your questions if anybody has them. Laura, can you join the group month? Let me check this chat. Laura, yes, it is a month to month. Yes, you can cancel at any time. Um, so I suppose month by month, it might just become cumbersome to do a month, not do a month, because you would have to go through the process of cancellation, which you can. There's nobody stopping you. So. But it definitely is, you can, there's no cancellation. There's no minimum number of months or anything like that. There's no, and if you were to sign up and then cancel in a couple months, and if you canceled mid-month, you wouldn't be charged again. You'd be able to finish out the month that you've paid for, but you wouldn't be charged for the following months, if that makes sense. So. And Sonia, no, this is my same old booth that I've had for the last, well, 2.5 years. I just usually, well, I don't always, I'm not always in this room um, when I'm doing these lives. A lot of times I go down into my dining room. It's my kitchen. I like the background in my kitchen a little bit better than I do here. So, um, let's see if there are questions here in the um, let's see. No camera, no camera, mostly listening, all good. Um, let's see. Joy, you had a question about how to enter the SOVAS Awards. Well, I think that you would just need to go to the SOVAS website um, and search, their application process. I couldn't tell you out of the gate how to do it, but um, I do I do know that it's a costly endeavor. It costs to submit. Um, it costs to attend, wherever it might be. You know, the only time that expense um, is reduced is if you live in the city in which it's being held, and it's usually L.A. or New York. That's they. I know they alternate between those two cities. So so you pay to submit, you pay to attend, and then you'd have, hotel and all of that to pay for as well. And if you win, you pay for your award as well. So it is a very costly endeavor. But all the details of that you can find on the SOVAS website, is what I would say. Let's see. Jenna, you have your hand up, and then I'll get to the questions in the chat. Yeah.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi. So I've been sick for 2 weeks.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank
Oh,
you.
for
It is
God's
my
sake.
first time being sick as a working voice actor. And I tried for like 2 days, kind of in the middle of it, to do some auditions, and um, I only got shortlisted for one. It was like a video game character.
Oh, that's great.
So
That's
thank
amazing.
you.
Yeah.
But I kind of just put a pause on that because I'm like, I just don't sound my best. And I just kind of wanted to get your advice, of how you handle auditions if you have jobs scheduled, when you're ill, how you handle it.
Yeah. I do my best to just get well. Um, I think the I think that's a piece of like perspective that we have to take. That there will always be more auditions, and so sometimes we miss them, and sometimes we miss them because we're working on other things. Sometimes we miss them because we're on vacation. Sometimes we miss them because our kids are sick. Sometimes we miss them because we're sick, and life goes on, and auditions will come again. And so I just do my best to lay low, be quiet, and not audition and not work, and I inform my agents. I say I am sick, I don't have any voice, I will let you know when I'm back. And sometimes, depending on the type of sickness that it is, I remember doing you get my focus back, come on, let's come back. Every time I move it takes my focus away. Anyway, um I remember this was years ago. I booked several spots with I booked several spots for Amica Insurance. This was a long, long time ago. Um, and when the session came up, I was sick, and I had a cold, um, and I just pumped myself full of drugs, that dried me out, Sudafed, all the things. And I could hear the cold in my voice because we always sound worse in our heads because everything's reverberating in our heads, right? We always sound worse than to ourselves than what I think we sound like to other people. So I didn't have a bunch of phlegm and, I wasn't coughing all the time and all of that because it was all controlled, by the medications I was taking. And because they did all the spots in one session, I never had to worry about matching my voice again, And so to this day, when I think, I put one of those on my reel a couple years ago, and to this day, when I hear it, I go, "Oh yeah, that was the session I was sick," because I could hear it, but they didn't know, right? So it really depends upon whether or not you're sick to the extent that you can't carry on, a reasonable session, right? Um, or whether or not you just sound different to yourself, but you really don't sound different, to anyone else, you know. Um, but I I got COVID. I don't know, and I don't know, early on in the game, and I it was very strange. I was sick. Like I had low grade nausea. That was my biggest symptom. I had sort of 1 or 2 days of this congested thing, and then I had low grade nausea for a couple of weeks. And it was one of those weeks. The first week, I think, it was one of the busiest weeks I had in voiceover, and I was exhausted. I was literally I. There was a point at which they were, all bickering about what take they liked in this half of this one and that half of that. And I just, I sat down on the floor in my booth and I just closed my eyes and I just was like, I hope I hear them if they say my name. Um, but in the middle of all that, my agent called me with another booking and I said, I can't do it. I can't do it. And they were like, okay, so I think you have to make your own assessment about what's best for you and what you can realistically undertake. And that's all good. You have to make that determination. And I just will say to you, nobody's career is, made or broken by being sick, right? You'll miss stuff for a week, you know. But I'll say this, if you half-ass it for a week, you're going to be out longer. And it's just going to prolong the half-assery. You know what I mean? So, which is why ultimately I'm like, just get better. Allow yourself to get better. Um, I hope that's answer enough. And I think just being straightforward, if you're working with agents, just be straightforward with them. I'm sick. Don't have a voice. They're not, nobody's going to blame you, you know? Um, and if you have clients, where you have something scheduled or something like that, you can tell them that you're sick as well. You can say, do we have an option of postponing the session for a couple of days? Um, my voice isn't exactly what you may have hired. Um, if you feel like you can do it, but you just don't sound exactly like you did on the audition, offer that to them. Just offer it. And I am just a big fan of being straight up, just straightforward. You're human, they're human. Everybody gets sick. You know, we ought not expect of ourselves that we are superhuman or that we have to hide, you know, when something's up. So, um, but I think if you keep in the forefront of your mind, like, I got to take care of myself, then all the decisions kind of go out from there. Right. The more you take care of yourself, the faster you'll be available to your clients. So good. Yeah. Okay, good. Let me check these. Have you noticed any trends in the auditions you've done recently? Have you changed the way you do your auditions? No, not lately. The only trends I see growing are that things are more and more and more and more and more non-union, and rates are lower and lower and lower and lower and lower. And every once in a while, a decent rate will come in and it'll be like, ah. Um, it's very exciting. And then everybody's excited because everybody's reading on it. Um, so no, I think for me, I'm staying the course. And one thing that y'all should know about me is that if you don't know it already, is that I'm very much, I don't read for everything because I get things that aren't necessarily right for me, and I don't read those things. So my auditions are pretty focused on what I do well, and I may get auditions that challenge me, but that I can do. And so I've really kind of honed in on the stuff that's right for me. And so I'm not trying to necessarily keep up with a trend because I've just entered a particular age category and type, and everything that is just like it's suited to me. So um, that said, I'm always mindful of trends, and the way they influence all of the age groups and stuff like that. So, but no, I haven't. I have been very good about getting my auditions in. Sometimes I'm not very good, but lately I have been. So, um, Suzanne, how is the prolonged interactive strike affecting your work? It is 1,000% affecting my work. 1,000%. It's been very, very slow. I mean, I barely qualified for my insurance this year. Barely. That's how slow because that is my primary um, work these days is video games. So I don't know if there's any end in sight. There's a membership meeting tonight, which I am going to attend. Um, so we'll find out. I think, you know, I think it's rough right now, and I think we're not. I think we can't realistically get all the things that we want. And the last time we had a strike of this length, it was the commercial strike in 2000, and it was absolutely devastating to the industry. Absolutely devastating. So, um, that all that said, I am not well versed on what is going on in the negotiations. I don't know a thing. I'm like over here in Nashville, and I'm like, you know, thinking about planting tomatoes. I'm not really inside the machine at the moment, but well, I will find out. I'll find out tonight. So, um, would you recommend trying genres that you are not well versed in? This is from Andy. Just to be more well-rounded as far as experience. Well, I think you should try things that excite you. I think you should try things that you find interesting, always. And you know, that's the only way you're gonna find out if you're any good at them or if you have an affinity for them. If you or if you feel like, oh, I like this, I could get better. Um, and you know, when I started reading for animation, I hadn't done animation. I just had agents who were willing to give me copy for animation. Well, my animation auditions now, 10 years later, are a lot better than they were 10 years ago. And it's because I worked on my auditions. And so obviously it took me 4 years before I booked anything in animation. And so in those 4 years, there might have been an audition or two that was worthy of being shortlisted or something like that. But the vast majority of them, like obviously, all of them, in those first 4 years, they passed. So I wasn't making the grade, in that period of time, but I was getting better. My auditions were getting better, and so I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm not really big on this idea of if you're not, don't audition until you're perfect. 'Cause nobody is, you know? Um, so, if you're reading things through an agent, frankly, if your agent doesn't think it's up to snuff, they're not going to send it. you know? And you can always, if you have a good relationship and a good rapport with your agent, you can always say to them, I'd like to try these things, and when you have a moment, I'd love your brief feedback if this is up to snuff or if it needs work. You don't have, it's like you don't want to ask your agent to direct you and give you all the tips. You just want to say, is this competitive? Right? Are these auditions competitive? And if they say, yeah, they're competitive, keep going. Great. Well, you've got some perspective there. If they say, no, not really, they're not really up to snuff, then that's your clue to go, get some coaching to get better. But I do think that you should try the things that interest you. Um, I don't think there's any point in uh, I don't think there's any point in auditioning for things that you don't like. You know, like I can't do audiobooks. I tried one once and I was like, who are these amazing people who read these things? I can't do it. So I don't do it. Let's see. Um, Thank you, Suzanne. I really appreciate that. Joy, no, it is open to union members only, the meeting. So we'll just have to report back. Um, Anna, when things are slow or you feel stuck, whether it's recent or when you were at the beginning of your career, how did you manage it and get through it emotionally, career-wise? Such a good question at the heart of everything I coach in. I think, um, first of all, I think it's really important to develop your life, um, and to have things outside of your work that you're interested in and that bring you happiness, and 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 give you affirmation for your life and its value and importance. Because you're not going to find, you ought not expect to find, a sense of worth from your voiceover career. Because of the nature of it. There are, I mean, last year was terrible for me, terrible, terrible year. And I've had several years like that throughout my career, and I think I have survived them by recognizing that if I'm not working, if I'm not in sessions, booking, working, there are other things in the big picture of my career that I ought to be attending to. So I take that time to look at my website. Does it need updating? What's my bio look like? Um, do I need a refresh of the colors on my website? I'm not talking about big giant overhauls, right? Because big giant overhauls are expensive, and we don't necessarily want to do that. Like we're not able to afford these things when we're not working, you know. But there are certainly things that we can do, and again, things like, is my bio up to date? Does my whole sort of look need a refresh of some kind, whether it's a change of a slogan or it's I'm just talking about website and stuff like that, do I need some training? Is there something, that I've wanted to do, that I've wanted to get better at that I haven't really been able to pay attention to because I've been working. Now I'm not working, so can I look into something there? Can I find some, low cost way of improving myself? And even if that is like joining a peer to peer workout group, right? So that you remember who you are, what you do, and that there are people around you after the same thing, and we all can be of encouragement to each other in all of it. Um, so those are the kinds of things that I have done throughout the years, um, and I stay diligent about auditioning. Auditioning it's a grind. We're all auditioning so much. And the ratio of booking to auditioning is slim. It's always been slim, but it's more so now. And I think one of the things we have to keep in perspective is that by and large, that's how it is for everyone. That's a piece of the state of the business. It isn't what it used to be. It's not what it was 25 years ago. It's just not. It's much harder to make a consistent living in this business. Is it impossible? No, it's not. It's probably more likely for men. And again, it's just the nature of the beast. I wouldn't even venture into those waters as to why. It, but it's just a part of it. And so a part of keeping our sanity is readjusting our expectations, of what the business is. And so I I would always make sure, first and foremost, to keep close to me the things that really matter to me, my friendships, my family, um, and do the things I can. Um, so I hope that helps. Does that help, Anna? Okay. All right, good. Um, Trying to think to see if there's another question here in here. So those are all the questions. Oh, one new message. Do you have any aspects of your business where you book from your demo versus audition? Um, yeah, I mean that's I have to say in the world of agenting, which is the world that I live in, um, there was a time when it wasn't uncommon to be booked from your demo. It really wasn't uncommon. Um, And now I don't find so much that people are booking off of demos, but they are requesting an audition based on your demo. Like a client might call Heather at Atlas and say, "Can you send me demos of like your 10 top women in this category?" And Heather will send 10, right? And then they'll come back and say, "Okay, we'd like to get auditions from these five." So that would be a way in which demos are used. But I'm not well versed enough on Voice 123 to know how often that happens in that world. I think it does happen, but I think that happens probably with more time and experience on the site, and clients knowing you fairly well. That would be a circumstance where they go, yeah, yeah, I know that voice, I like it. Okay, I'm going to book that voice, right? I don't I don't I don't think it's as common as it used to be. Um, it may be a different thing internationally. Everybody has their, I don't presume that the way we do things in the US is how people do things in other countries. So, um, let's see. Andy, as a follow-up, and then Genevieve, I will get to you. Andy, I've been told that there are less well-traveled areas of VO, such as medical or explainers, which might involve less competition. I actually think that medical and explainers are pretty highly traveled. A lot of people do them. But I would say um, there aren't, I would imagine if you're good at reading medical, that there's probably work for you. That is a skill unto itself, you know, not easy. Um, so again, I think there probably are. It's like in political, in our quasi Hollywood, vibe going on in as it's connected to voiceover and stuff. In political, there are fewer people who do Republican political, and so there's less competition in there. So yeah, I think you can find, I think you could find areas that aren't as well traveled. But at this point, voiceover is just so like people are everywhere doing voiceover. And there are a lot of people who aren't interested in they're not even interested in commercial and promo and animation and video games. They what they want to do is explainers and corporate narration and medical. And they I know several people who make their careers in medical, and they don't want an agent. They don't care. you know. So I think it just depends, you know, and I think it's worth exploring um, and find out what's out there that might be that might be of interest to you, you know, that you might want to. I think there's stuff out there always to be uh, stones to be overturned. So that is what I would say. Um, Genevieve, tell me.
Hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to quickly share an experience and then see your thoughts.
Sure.
So there's a newer local to me agent that is, um, I've checked them out, like they're experienced. He came from another agency, but when I asked about submitting, they just kind of sent me like a general email, like give us your stats and then provide any headshots or demos. But a lot of those stats were like if you're doing on camera.
Mhm.
So I just assumed that, okay, they don't need that information from me, so I gave them the other information like experience and demo. And the response to me was again the same email with the stats, just bolded this time. So, I mean, I guess kind of I'm like, it didn't seem like a very nice way to handle it. And I also am wondering, do we give that information in those scenarios?
Um, I do. I mean, I don't do on camera. I don't. I don't do on camera. But if it's I submitted to an agency here in Nashville, which they declined, and I did all the things. You know, you know, they wanted all kinds of pictures, and it's like, well, I don't really have print. You know, it's a print agency, and they handle voiceover and stuff like that as well. And you know, we're sort of an odd breed, right? Like, especially in regional agencies where the agencies handle all the things. It's not
Mhm.
specific to voiceover, right? Um, so I would just give them what they want, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, and I suppose in the email, I would say, here's the information that you requested, and I just want to confirm that I'm submitting for voiceover representation. But sometimes they ask for those things because they might get video game auditions where they want to use your likeness or they want to, you know, where it's motion capture, where it's performance capture. And so they want to know kind of what you look like.
Mm.
Right. And so it isn't it isn't necessarily that you know, you're saying, okay, you can submit me for on-camera things. There are things in voiceover that where that's just helpful stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like I think my agents um have all that information. They have my pick headshots and they have my stats and you know, I think people they ask for your hair color and eye color and your height, you know. I don't and they don't I don't believe they can even ask for your age and they can't ask for your weight. Those
Okay.
two things are like, yeah, you don't get to do that unless it's a modeling agency, you know, and then I think they would ask for that. But um I don't think that's kosher anymore, you know, to ask for your age or your weight,
Okay.
interestingly enough, right?
Yeah.
But if you have generally, you know, uh good feelings about it and, you know, then I wouldn't hesitate to do that. And if you do decide that you're going to send that information and you're replying again, right? You're sending it in again. And if you're able to send a note, you can certainly acknowledge like, you know, my apologies since I'm submitting for voiceover, I would assume that you didn't need that, but here's the information for you, right?
Mhm.
Just so they know that you're not obtuse. You know, you didn't miss it, right? You just were like, yeah, why would they need that? You know,
Yeah.
so I think I think that's realistic, totally. But
Okay.
I wouldn't if it were me, I wouldn't hesitate. I've done it before. You know,
Yeah.
almost every regional agency that I've ever submitted to has asked for that kind of information. So,
Okay.
um,
Mm.
yeah,
Great. Thank you.
you're welcome. Jeff, are there markets or demand for normal voices in animation and gaming? Well, yeah, yeah, absolutely. there's definitely in animation, there's been a trend for, at least a decade, if not longer, of more grounded, they would say grounded voices, um, rather than normal. All of us are just more abnormal than, than the general population. But so yes, there is a market for more grounded voices, realistic voices, definitely in gaming. But I will say this: animation and gaming are both heightened reads. So they tend to be more, more. There's more drama in them. They're, you know, um, all of the circumstances are heightened. So we have to keep that in mind. But again, it will always depend upon what the story is and, what's and what the character is. I mean, uh, the character I did in Cyberpunk 2077, the president, like it was really subdued. It was a very subdued character. I was mostly talking one on one, with people. And then there'd be a firefight, and then you're yelling and, and all those kinds of things. But it was absolutely grounded. I mean, I think that's why I was able to move into the realm of animation and gaming, is because the expectations were that these voices were more grounded in reality than they were heightened, crazy characters. I used to always say, like, I wouldn't know if it was like, so we're casting these blue Smurfs. I'd be like, what? What do I do with that? I don't even understand that. What does that mean? How do I have a voice of a blue person? A blue thing? I don't know. So those are that's where my imagination fell short, and where others just did something wacky, and they created a thing. And that was not my expertise. I'm more like, oh, everything's more grounded now, and that's really when I started working. So yes, there is a market for it. Yeah. Um, so I think that's it. Um, one new message. You're welcome. um, so just in closing today, I would love to encourage you, to think about whatever your whatever your coaching situation is. If that sounds interesting to you, information is forthcoming probably at the end of this week. And so um and I will say this, yes, look at you, Jay. Here I am speaking of my monthly membership. Um so the format is such that you may bring copy that you want to work on, that auditions that you might have, auditions that you've done, um, and I will direct you and coach you on those. And if you don't have anything, I will provide the copy for you. And I will say most of that copy would be in commercial, unless you have something, genre very specifically that you wanted to work on. The sessions will be as follows. Again, this will come out, at the end of the week, but the second Tuesday, if I can get this right, take two. Um, the second Wednesday of the month will be at noon Central for 90 minutes. That's coaching session 1. Coaching session 2 will be the fourth Wednesday of the month at 7 p.m. Central. The monthly Q&A with voiceover veterans will be the first Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m. Right? And then I'll have this customary Ask Me Anything, which will remain as it is, open to anyone. Not necessarily part of the, of the membership, open to all. But those are the dates and times, like days of the month and times. But again, I'll have it all spelled out on a sort of a one sheet for you. And I think that's it. Um, let's see, Andy, I do one weekly improv and one bi-weekly improv for 90 minutes, but I need more acting experience, so I'd be interested. Great. That is good to know. Jay, do you teach in person in Nashville? I do not. I have grown so accustomed to doing things from my booth, but oh, there's my alarm to tell me that it's time. Um, but Christy Bowen, she has a fantastic studio and she hosts a lot of coaching, and I got to get in touch with her and see if I can do some coaching at her studio. It's really a fantastic studio and she offers a lot of really good stuff, but I haven't done that yet because I'm slow. And I don't know Alan Dysert. I don't. I should I? Um, that is it.